The Theater History Podcast is supported by HowlRound, a Knowledge Commons by and for the theater community. It's available on iTunes and howlround.com.
Hi, and welcome to the Theater History Podcast. I'm Mike Leager. For 42 years, Chamizal National Memorial, located on the United States-Mexico border at the far western tip of Texas, has been the site of the Siglo de Oro Drama Festival, a series of performances of work from and inspired by the theater of the Spanish Golden Age. Today we're joined by Dr. Esther Fernandez, who's Assistant Professor of Spanish Peninsular Literature and Culture at Rice University, and who's closely involved with the festival. Esther, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Michael. It's my pleasure.
What can you tell us about the origins of the festival at Chamizal, and what is its purpose?
So the festival was founded in 1976, and it's the first festival in the world that features plays in Hispanic theater. Many people still don't know about that, and they think that is Almagro the first festival, because Almagro has this reputation as a touristic town. It has one of the first corrales de comedia, but in fact is this first festival the one that gave visibility to the comedia in performance. It started just as a scholarly gathering, company with a series of performance, and I believe UTEP, the University of Texas at El Paso, was in collaboration with those academics. So it's also it changed a lot. The festival has been for over 40 years. It started with just 2 performances in English and 2 performances in Spanish. And I think the vision was from the performance perspective. It was like an educational opportunity to some university theater groups to show their work. So it started as 2 professional companies and 2 university theater groups. And after this has changed, the festival in its golden age was almost 2 weeks long, with many professional companies as well as university groups. And I think another important thing to keep in mind for people that want to know about Hispanic festivals is that the Almagro festival, that is right now so iconic, it also started with the same, such a small beginning and humble just gathering of some scholar that just wanted to talk about comedia and wanted to kind of illustrate those talks with performances. So the talk was definitely academic, I will say, and with also an emphasis in I would say educational for university theater groups, but that changed over the years. So right now I think we have 4 days only, but it has gone through its ups and its downs. So I think that's more or less its origin and a little bit of how it started.
A moment ago you mentioned Almagro, and for listeners who might not be familiar with that, that's a well-known site in Spain, yes?
Yes, Almagro is a town in La Mancha, just Cervantes in Don Quixote's route. So Almagro it's the probably the most iconic festival of Hispanic theater that right now exists. It's also a very touristic place, because as I mentioned, it has preserved one of its original corrales. A corral is a playhouse. So it was discovered in the 40s and it has been preserved, and now it's an actual venue for comedia performance. And also due to a series of political moves that that were important at the time, it has reached an international reputation. So it's also, it has the touristic side of the town of really being in, you can spend the night in a 17th century inn. Then you have the Corral de Comedias. It has a whole like touristic logistics around itself. And it has been appealing more and more foreign visitors as well as national visitors. Almagro obviously really overshadows, for example, the Chamizal. You can ask many people in Spain about, do you know about the Chamizal theater? They don't know. In fact, I just learned that even many people in El Paso don't know about this festival. So it's a little bit in the shadow. I mean, for Spaniards, it's completely in the shadow, which I think it's really, I would like to change that. And in fact, I'm more and more determined to write more about that because it's extremely rich. It has companies come here and the audience response is really special, and I think it should be much more known, not only among Hispanists, but about theater scholars, theater performers, and anybody interested in theater, in Hispanic theater.
Well, I make no great claims for the fame of this show, but we'll do what we can to spread the word. You're currently speaking with us from the 2017 festival. What's been on the program this year, and how do those works reflect the festival's cultural and educational goals?
There is 4 plays they're being shown. The first one, the first one was The Heresy of Love. Maybe some of you know, by Ellen Edmondson. And it was performed by Illinois State University School of Theater and Dance. And it was a work in English. And I mentioned the language because that's, I think, maybe an issue we can talk. Another work that was yesterday's show was Que con Quique Quinto, which in translation will be What's Up with Henry V. And that was in Spanish, and it was a production for children, an adaptation, a very loose and free adaptation on Henry V. Today, there is a Comedia del Arte performance from a Spanish group called Teatro Rey Mala, and it's La Reunión de los Zanis, mean the meeting of the Zanis. And tomorrow, there is an entremés by Cervantes, Cervantes farce, called El Retablo de las Maravillas. And it's also about another Spanish group. It's called Teatro Morfeo. So now looking at the program, as you can, or as we can discuss, there is 3 plays in Spanish and 1 play in English. And this, and also the other thing I think we could talk about is, there is, I believe there is 3 professional companies. And The Heresy of Love was a university theater troupe. So I will say something about the language. I haven't seen many plays in English in the last few years. In fact, among the 300 plays, only 7% have been translated, has been plays in English. The rest are plays in Spanish. So for this year to have a play in English I think it's great because it opens the festival to another audience, to a broader audience that doesn't have to be Spanish speaking people in El Paso. But you see that many of the plays are in Spanish, like 3 of them still are in Spanish. Also, about these programs, what I like about this program is really, there is a great equilibrium. There is all kinds of genres, from children's adaptation to Comedia del Arte to a farce by Cervantes to a much more like tragedy based on a biography. The Heresy of Love it was the first performance we saw. It was magnificent, at least for me. I really enjoyed. It was on the life of Sor Juana, and it was a very dense. It was 2 hours and a half, in fact, which is long for this festival. But you see in that program there is a little bit of everything, and I like that. I think this is not always the case, but this year was really well equilibrated. So the diversity, I think, it's great on this year program. Also the fact that there is a play in English, as I mentioned. There are plays for all ages. Usually this is another thing in El Paso. Kids, you usually see little kids like in all kinds of plays. There is no such a preoccupation of age. Everybody is in the auditorium, which gives also a very beautiful sense of community to this place. And I also like the fact that there are plays that are set, that are talking about Spain, like El Retablo de las Maravillas, Europe, and Latin America with Sor Juana, which was the Mexican nun. So, for some reason, maybe it's because you're doing this interview to me, the program I think it's fantastic this year. So I will say more or less that diversity, this is something that the festival programs really reflect this year, and is also one of the highlights, in my opinion, of this festival. The diversity you can see in the audience is also reflected in the work this year. The fact that you could say almost is not half and half bilingual, but there is a play in English. I think it's important that we try to stage more and more comedias in English, because it's a way to reach to a broader audience, and if Sor Juana can be known more because it's staged in English, go for it. So I will say diversity, the bilingual side, and also the different themes of the plays. No, you have biography, history, you have honor in Cervantes, comedy, tragedy, genres and themes that are also very varied. And I think it's giving the whole Siglo de Oro a very diverse and rich perspective from this program of this year. So I'm very happy, and I've been enjoying the shows very much.
Yes, and on that diversity note, you've mentioned Sor Juana a number of times. She's a fascinating figure. Could you please tell us a little bit more about her?
Yes, she was this Mexican nun, which was I like to think about her as the first proto-feminist in Latin America, that she defied the church and gave women a voice to talk about theology and about gender. So I was impressed by the fact to have this play performed here. The play that it's The Heresy of Love. It's a fictional play, but it was based on her life. And I was talking to the director and to the dramaturg, and apparently they did a matinee pass with more than 400 students, high school students. And what they told me is that they never experienced such an amazing audience. And by the end, not always people they were crying, they were making their opinion out loud, but many were asking them where they can find the works by Sor Juana. So obviously, these were high school students, but the play really did this reach out to these high school audiences. So I think it's an important figure. There is a mini-series in Mexico, Mexican mini-series that is also, I think, maybe making her a little bit more popular now among some audiences. because I've been hearing it also among my students. Oh, did you see the miniseries about Sor Juana? So, more or less is one of those fascinating characters. She has a couple of great plays, that usually are performed in some of the festivals. Los Empeños de una Casa is one of them. But I was really pleased to see this play about her life and her struggle as a woman writer and a woman of the church in 17th century in a magnificent way. Now I want to read Helen Edmund's Heresy of Love.
You've already given us some great insight into what it's like to attend some of the performances at the festival, but could you talk a little bit more about your own personal role? What do you do while you're down there?
I should be doing much more of what I do, but I'm a member of the Association for Hispanic and Classical Theater, and in this association we help not me, but more the officers and the president. They are in dialogue with the festival, directors, and also with a group that is called the Paisanos of the Chamizal, which is an association that also helps this festival come to life every year, because they do fundraising for this to happen. So my group, not me especially, but the group itself, it's really it's also part of a support for this festival to a certain extent. I think this year they also help a little bit financially, but we help more, like, I think at the level of the officers, if they have questions about the selection of some of the plays. Usually we, two volunteers of the association, used to introduce the plays, and it's also a tradition that a person from the association, we do a round table at the end of the performance, so we carry on question and answer with the actors and the audience, so we help with that. Also. For other members, we just come here, we have this conference, and we go at night to see the plays. So that's normally, we are not really hands-on in the festival, some of us. I know other members in my associations, they're more involved. The higher ups are really a big help. So I think it's also important that this festival, it's a collaborative effort about the Chamizal National Memorial Park, State Park, because that happened in a state park. It's the group of the Paisanos, that is this non-profit organization, as I mentioned, that does fundraisings in the area of El Paso. It's through, I think they really work with small businesses, other academic entities, and our association. So I think this is more or less the involvement, not of myself per se, but of the association with the festival.
Can you speak more broadly about Siglo de Oro drama's presence or lack thereof in the United States? What do you think it might contribute to our understanding that we wouldn't necessarily get from more familiar classical works such as Shakespeare?
Okay, so I think that was we were discussing that today in the conference, and obviously I think it's undeniable that the Hispanic classical theater on North American stages really remains overshadowed by the omnipotent presence of the bard. However, I think the Commedia has been able to find a niche for itself, thanks to the growing interest of professional companies, as I mentioned, theater groups, and also Hispanic theater festivals. However, for example, with the professional companies, they tend to perform Commedia in small cities, or when they perform in large cities, they used to perform in alternative spaces. So there is not a lot of visibility from their part. University theater group and Hispanic Theater Festival, I think they have increased their imprint of the genre in this media. In the past, for example, in the United States, one of the departments that had a big tradition in performing comedia was at Barnard College. And now there is a lot of effort from many people in different universities that I think their effort is being instrumental in keeping alive Hispanic classical theater. Also in schools and university theaters, a good example is what Barbara Fuchs is doing with her project Diversifying the Classics. Yes, the overshadowing presence of Shakespeare is very difficult to separate. However, I think, and there was a whole discussion about that today, from a pragmatic point of view, and I think, for example, the Golden Age has amazing roles for young actresses that Elizabethan theater doesn't have. And this opinion comes of talking to, when we were in England, with this specific group of this association. We were talking to some of the actresses that used to perform Shakespeare, and for the first time they were performing Commedia, and all the young women were telling us that it's amazing the characters they can perform, and it's something they don't have so many choices. So I think from a practitioner's point of view, and especially for young women, the Golden Age is a mine of gold of incredible roles. And I think Barbara Fuchs and two other of her graduate students are now publishing, I think, the first book of monologues on Hispanic, just centered on Hispanic classical theater. Not only for women, but I'm sure there will be great monologues for women, in order to have that also as a resource for people interested in performing early modern theater in general. So from that practitioner point of view, I think the Commedia can offer that definitely. Another thing is the corpus is so big that if you start navigating it, there is an enormous variety of themes. So you're gonna find something you like for sure. The problem is, again, and as we were discussing today, there is a lack of translations. So if we could put there much translations, I think maybe the Commedia will have like a greater visibility in theater schools and why not commercial theaters. But I think something that is problematic is the lack of translations, and the lack of good translation is always the same place being translated. So this canon needs to be open and really show what the Commedia and Hispanic classical theater has to offer. Another thing I think it's unique to a certain extent is that and it's really a subversive theater. And again, we also think about the Spaniards and the honor and all those women that finished dead at the end by their husband. But if you read carefully some of the plays, and especially for women, again, women's role, they can be extremely, they can have very, very subversive plots. So it's not always the oppressed protagonist. It gives like a really strong voice to women at that time. And again, especially to young protagonists. And I think that's something maybe for students of drama, something to be, to take in considerations, to have at least to get to know this corpus and to have this option open to them, to play certain roles that right now are completely in the shadow because those works still in Spanish. So yes, if you are a Hispanist, you know that a play like La Viuda Valenciana, if you are a young actress, is the one you want to play. But if I say that to an English department, they wouldn't even know what I'm talking about. So I will definitely say great, like the Commedia has great roles for women actresses, that has the variety, and read it carefully can be very subversive, but we have the translation problem. And that is, I think, one of the main obstacles we have to overcome: more translations and good translations.
We'll post links to information about this year's Siglo de Oro festival at Chamizal, as well as the website for the Association for Hispanic Classical Theater and the website of Los Paisanos de El Chamizal, a non-profit organization formed to support the festival. Esther, thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure, Michael.
If you'd like to continue today's conversation, please visit howlround.com and follow HowlRound and @TheaterHistory on Twitter. A big thank you to the staff at HowlRound who make this show possible. Our theme music is The Black Crook Gallop, which comes to us courtesy of the New York Public Library Libretto Project and Adam Roberts. Thanks as well to Tip Kress, who designed our logo. And finally, thank you for listening.